everyone, and welcome to episode 39 of the Bao Podcast. Today is quite a special episode, because it's the first podcast recorded at an external location, as you can see, but also because of our guest, a man who needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway, Thomas RAU. As founder of RAU Architects, Turntoo and Madaster, Thomas is a visionary thinker who challenges the way we design, build and use materials. His concept of material passports and circular construction is reshaping the industry, proving that buildings should be seen not just as a structure, but as a resource bank for the future. His innovative approach has not gone unnoticed. He has received numerous awards, including the ARC13 Oeuvre Award, the Circular Economy Leadership Award, and the World Green Building Council Chairman's Award. So, get ready for an inspiring conversation about innovation, responsibility, and the architecture of tomorrow. Welcome, Thomas. How are you today?
I'm very fine, and I'm very thankful that you are on the first time on an external location, so thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. It's a very beautiful office, so it's nice to come over. So we kind of in the habit at the Bao Podcast to start at the very beginning. So if it's okay for you, I'm curious to maybe hear where the interest in architecture and especially the cross of architecture and sustainability, where did it start for you personally?
This is a small story, so
Okay.
I'm ready for the story.
Yeah, of course, we have time.
Because in fact, I started in the childcare, and then I studied dance. So there was no reason for me to end up in architecture.
Childcare and dance.
Yes.
So you're not an architect by education.
No, that's so I started in my life.
Okay.
That was my first years, and then I said, okay. I thought, okay, if you're getting older and you're a dancer, maybe that's not a good idea. So let's do something serious. And I was thinking about it. So what could I study? And actually, it sounds strange maybe, but then I had a dream, and in the dream there was a bass voice telling me that I should study architecture. I had no clue why.
And who was telling you this?
It was in my dream. I had a dream, and in the dream I heard a voice.
Okay.
And that's the reason why I started. That's why I started to study architecture. I had no relation with architecture at all before, and to be honest, I'm still discovering why I'm an architect.
That's the first time I hear this. Yeah.
I told you this is a story, and you want to hear it, so now you get it.
And how old were you when you got this dream?
I was 24.
Okay, so still quite young.
I was still quite young. Yes, and of course, then I studied on the technical school. I studied in Aachen. It was very boring, unbelievable boring, because everybody was much better than me. I had no clue what I should do there. It was all about technique, but I said, oh, wait a minute, but architecture is for the humans. Architecture is facilitating the space for humans, for humanity. So what is about the humans? I don't know anything about the humans. So after 2 years, I decided to stop on the technical university, and then I went to an art school, and I studied architecture and painting and sculpture and theater and whatever. And there I learned everything about the human, who we are, what we are, that we are spiritual beings on the human journey, that we are guests on planet Earth. And after a year, it was very boring. I said, okay, they know everything about the humans. They have no clue about architecture. So then it ended up in my decision to finish both studies. So I studied on the art school and on the technical school, because I want to bring the human aspect in architecture. I want to bring that together. So I finished both studies. Yeah.
Okay. So then when you went to the creative studies, you finished that, and then you went back to study to finish.
No, I do it parallel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did it parallel, and then I had my design. So in the morning I had the design on one school, and then I take the same design. I go to the university at I had a teacher there. So then I want to combine it because it belongs together. Because, as I already mentioned, architecture is very important, and architecture needs a lot of material. It's the art which needs the most material, because we need an architecture material to facilitate what is not material, space.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So I think that we, as an architect, we have a very, very high responsibility.
Okay. And that insight, did that came more from the creative education or more from the traditional architecture education?
I don't know. You know what? I mean, when I studied at the art school, I had a girlfriend, very nice girlfriend, and she was the daughter of the director.
Okay.
And then the director, he heard, okay, Thomas, Saskia, she's telling me that you want to leave the school, you want to go back to the university. So why? So I explained him the situation, and then he said, you know what? If you write your own study program, then I will organize your study. So you are free to choose what you think is necessary to learn so that you can follow your agenda.
Wow, that's quite a gift.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So in fact, I organized my own study.
That's great.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
They should make that like the norm, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least an option.
I would appreciate it, of course. Yeah. So that was really a gift. I was very happy with this, and so now I end up here in 2025. And I discovered also some misunderstandings in the story, but maybe we come on that later.
Okay. And so you were 24, so that's quite a while ago. How long is that ago?
This is 40 years ago.
40 years ago, right. Yeah. So was there already a lot of attention to sustainability? Was the concept of circularity already a thing that they were educating in the technical school?
No, there was no... There was there was not much attention about that, but the motivation. So maybe you asked for the motivation. Why did I get there? So then there's another story.
Okay.
So maybe we have just stories today.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have to go back 14 years. So I was 10, and we had some friends. Maybe it was a day like today. It was a little bit warm, and we said, "Oh, let's have a barbecue party tonight." So we bought some sausages, and then we had the barbecue, and then suddenly it was raining, and there was not enough fire, and we were hungry, and the sausages were not ready. So, okay, this kind of trouble. And I said, guys, you know what? No problem. So I put a jerry can. I said, I put some petrol on the fire so we can eat in 5 minutes. But I didn't realize myself that the fire is more quick in the jerry can than the petrol on the fire. So I had a big explosion in my hand, so the jerry can exploded, and I burned myself from here on downwards.
Oh,
and that was really very serious. So I stayed at home in a room without light. Everything was closed. I couldn't have any sunlight.
full of burns.
Yes, I drink 10 liters a day. My legs, everything was completely open, so it was very painful. And of course, these are my words today, but I thought maybe I'm going to die.
And you were 10 years old.
Yes, but I mean, if you have this kind of thoughts as a child, it's not a big issue because you were just dead. So the death was very close. So I said, okay, maybe that's it. So I realized in that period, and I mean, I was in bed for weeks, for months. I couldn't walk after that, so I had to learn to walk again. And I couldn't go in the sun until my 18th. I couldn't wear shorts. So I never could walk with naked legs because of the skin. But but I'm very thankful to my parents because they didn't bring me to the hospital. That was quite unique. I mean, of course, you bring someone to the hospital. But my father, he had a friend from school, and he was a doctor, and he had all kind of alternative medicines. And he said, you know what, keep him at home. I will take care for him. He came 3 times a day. He came along. It was very close. I mean, he just could walk. So that's why I could stay at home. So I was very happy for that. But it was very clear for me in that period that my being is temporary. My existence is temporary. Because I felt it physically. So then I start to think about who I am, what I am. So everything here is temporary. So I start to make this kind of thoughts again and again. And that's where everything starts. And maybe to end up this small story is that I'm the third son of my parents, and my mother is still alive. She's 98, completely fit, I can tell you. Unbelievable.
Wow.
And I was a very, very complicated child. So I know from my mother, and she has written a diary book, so you can read it. They had no clue how to handle me. They had really no clue. They were completely helpless, what they can do with me until my 10th. And so my mother had 3 kids. And she's saying now, after the accident, I was her 4th child. So even something changed completely inside of myself because of the accident. So I'm very thankful for the accident. So, but this is a starting point for the motivation where you were asking for.
Thanks for sharing that. That's quite an emotional story. As a 10-year-old, that I can imagine that leaves quite an impact.
Yeah, a huge impact. Yeah.
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 And so when you were spending those months in a dark room, you started to somewhat realize that things are temporary.
Yeah.
And that came back to you when you were starting to enter the workforce and started to think about architecture?
No. I was 10, and then I started to work on that. So I as far as you can take a decision as a 10-year-old boy, it was my decision that this is my agenda. And my agenda was, I said, okay, I want to change the world. Second, as quick as possible. And third, I'm the biggest handicap for agenda point 1 and 2. I need collaboration. So I'm still always searching for collaboration. And so I had a very tough time in school, very, very, very tough time. They nearly set me out of the school.
This is high school.
No, the school, the gymnasium.
Okay.
The gymnasium. This is also a small story because we had art lessons, and then we had Dadaisme.
What's Dadaisme?
This is a special art direction.
Okay.
And we had to do something for that. So I said, okay. And we had a huge stair house at school, a huge one. It was a completely new school. At that time, they had low budget. And there was a void in between. And I made a big coffin. And I opened the coffin, and I put a big mirror in the coffin. And I was hanging it in the stair house. So everybody who wants to see what is going on, he saw himself in the coffin because of the mirror. I thought that's a genius idea.
And how old were you then? 14, 15?
18. I was 18. Okay. But that was a point that I nearly had to leave the school. And I didn't understand it. I mean, you asked me this question, so this is my answer on your question. So what is wrong? I mean, what is wrong with the answer? But I had 24 hours to disassemble everything, and otherwise I had to leave the school. So this is one of those stories. Okay. I'm trying to combine the pieces from going Please,
yeah.
please.
From going from these quite intense experiences when you were young
Yeah.
to playing the role that you have played and that you are playing in circular ideas around construction.
Yeah. This is another story.
Okay.
I was 52
Okay.
and I got scarlet for the second time. This is a child sickness.
Okay.
Hopefully you have it. I mean, regularly everybody had it. But I got it for the second time. And I can tell you, it's unbelievably painful because you nearly can't walk. It's just, you're just on the ground. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I went to the doctor and he said, yeah, Thomas, that's a pity. You have scarlet for the second time. I said, okay, I know that. I looked it up in the internet. Of course, I could see I have scarlet. I said, okay, why are you coming? And I said, I want to know, why do I have scarlet? Because if I don't know why, what the fuck do I have this sickness? So I really want to know why. So I can learn from it because it seems to be a message for me and I want to know the message. Oh, he said, I can tell you. If you're 52 and you get for the second time in your life scarlet, you're still not doing in your life what you really want to do. I said, oh shit, yeah. That was my agenda. I was remembering again my agenda. And then I went home and I told to my wife, Sabine, you know what? I start a second architecture office. Because architecture is much brighter than just buildings. So we have to think about the architecture of the system. So maybe it was a misunderstanding. So that's why I started with the circular economy. We work together with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. We make the reports with McKinsey. We had presentations. In Davos, and then I realized myself, because I was now, let's say, 20 years. I was designing in the sustainable architecture, and then I realized myself, wait a minute, sustainability means we are optimizing in between the existing system. So we make something better, less energy, more healthy, less material or different material. But the result of an optimization is an optimum, not transformation. So if we think, and I think, we have to change the system, sustainability is completely the wrong tool. It's even blocking the transformation. And circularity is a tool to transform the system, because we are connecting power and responsibility on the same chair. And we need a fundamental change in this system. So that's why I introduced the circular economy in the Netherlands 12 years ago. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I always make the decision. So do we need sustainability or do we need circularity?
What's the difference?
I mean, sustainability means you make something better. You try to design something for less energy, or a little bit more healthy, or less material. So you're optimizing. But if you're optimizing, it's not a fundamental change. You optimize. But circularity means that everything which is limited, we have to facilitate it in an unlimited way, so that it's unlimited available. So that means a completely new economic system. We have to bring responsibility and power. We have to bring it together. We have to realize that we organize the half of what we have to organize in our economy, because we're just organizing the value creation chain, but we need also a value sustain chain. So we have to think everything in the forward and in the backward direction, because everything is temporary, but the consequences are permanent.
Because it's limited in resource.
Yeah,
and you can spend it in a traditional way. You can only spend it once.
If you do it wrong, you just spend it once and then it's gone. But if you have another mindset, that okay, whatever I design, it's temporary, and I need limited materials to organize something which is temporary, then maybe it's a good idea to design it in a way that if the temporality is finished, I still can use the materials. So in fact, you have to design of, let's say, whatever we do, a chair, a table, your iPhone, your microphone, should be a material depot. It's a temporary place for the limited edition material. And in this case, now they're playing microphone, they're playing a chair, and tomorrow they're playing something different.
Mm-hmm.
Because our existence is temporary, that means our needs are temporary. That means all answers on our needs are also temporary. Nothing is permanent. And if nothing is permanent, then we have to take the responsibility. What happens when it's finished?
Mm-hmm. It reminds me a bit of Buddhist teachings, in the sense that they also are always preaching that there's a lot of everything is temporary, everything is always changing.
Yeah.
It reminds me a bit of that, but that's more from a religious perspective, of course.
Now, I mean, the only constant in life is changing.
Yeah.
You are completely different now than yesterday, 10 years ago. So, in fact, change means we are still alive. If you start not to change anymore, you're gone. And another story, I was for some years, I was the advisor of the king of Bhutan, His Majesty Wangchuk.
Uh-huh.
It's the country for the cross-national happiness. Of course, he's a Buddhist. And in that time, I was busy with the book, which I was written with my wife, Material Matters. So where we write down all this kind of thoughts. So I had very nice discussion with him about this issue. And as you mentioned, for Buddhists, it's completely clear. But in the Western world, we said, "Oh wow, yeah, oh maybe that's true." So that's why it's so interesting to study the different perspectives on reality.
So it comes from a very the idea of the circular building and the circular design. It comes actually from a very spiritualism, maybe a strong word, but
it's good.
Yeah.
It's not a trick. It's not just this is a nice idea. I think this is one of the biggest step in humanity to organize our life on planet Earth in a completely different way. Because we have to, and I give another example. Let's say you're in love with someone for years, and maybe I did, maybe you're not, and you already decided, you know what, let's get all together. And then suddenly you discover that your partner is an alcoholic. And then you say, shit, hey, come on, we want to get all together. And you're drinking every day, so you really have to do something. I'm still in love with you, but you really now have to change. Otherwise, it never happens that we're getting all together. And then your partner is saying, don't worry, I will stop drinking in 2030 for 27%, in 2040 for 68%, and in 2050 I'm alcohol neutral. Then you know, you will leave the relation.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to wait for 2050.
No.
And he or she is not doing what is necessary, they're doing what is possible. But this is exactly the point where we are now in our relation with the earth. We are not doing what is necessary. We are just doing what is possible. So we are losing the love relation with planet Earth. And that's the biggest agenda. We have to redesign our love with everything what makes our life possible. This is a huge agenda. This is not a trick.
What's the biggest challenge in achieving that, you think? Is it because if you explain it like this, it doesn't sound like a technological challenge. It's a spiritual / emotional perspective change in humanity.
You know, I'm not interested in climate change. 0.0. And you know what? Why? I can't do anything. I can change the climate. Can you change the climate? Nobody can. The only one who can change climate is nature. So that makes no sense. So the only thing I can do is I can change my mindset. So I can prepare with my mindset the precondition for nature to change the climate. So everything is up to us. Everything is about our mindset. So it's about mind change and not climate change. And that we have to get aware that we are spiritual beings on the human journey and not human beings on the spiritual journey. This is a big misunderstanding. So it's not nice to hear, but we created the problem. The good news is we are the solution.
And how are we the solution?
To change our mind and to do everything out of the attitude that nothing is from us, everything is given to us, and that we are guests and we are not the host. I think this is one of the biggest misunderstandings in humanity, and even the church can learn something out of that.
Less ego. Yeah. So then you can say that the work that you've been doing with the firm or the different firms and also the buildings that you've designed and realized up to date, they're almost like an invitation more to change the mindset of the people who visited, to study them, who live in them, and that the impact of that can be way bigger than just the environmental savings of that one specific building.
I like your statement. I never thought about like this, that this is an invitation. But yeah, it's an invitation. But the impact is much bigger than the physical, than just the physical part. It's all about the mindset, because what is materialized is the end stadium of a long process. And it's always that what we do is a mirror of our awareness. So if we do something different, then that means we change our awareness. And of course, I want to organize it. I can't organize it by myself. This is, who I am, but I want to live this life out of the perspective that I participate, maybe very, very small, in the transformation of humanity. So that something changed a little bit because I was here.
I think you can say you've already done that now. I mean, do you think you've achieved that already?
I have no idea.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
In the forward direction you can guess, and the backward direction you know.
Right, yeah. True, yeah. How do you see the, and maybe that's a little bit of a context switch, but from what we see with our business, we're also really trying to do something similar, but very focused on a subset of construction, right? So we try to make all the utilities and the entire interior of a building as circular as possible. There's what we've noticed now, no problem, in the last 6 years, is that there's always a conflict if you try to change this between the status quo and especially the costs related to the status quo and how low they already are, and the change that you try to bring. Is that something you run into? And I don't know if I phrased the question.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand your phenomenon.
Yeah, it's a journey we're gonna continue to go on, and we are now getting to the point that we are price competitive, so we see an increase. But I notice a lot in the industry that there are a lot of people who, I think when they listen to this, they say, we fully agree. Beautiful ideas, beautiful theory. We like our gut says yes, and then they go to their work, because there are a lot of people, almost all people who listen to this are active in the construction industry, and then they get confronted with the Excel. And is that something that you've run into the last decades, the last years, trying to implement this change? And if so, how have you tackled it? How have you?
I know this. I have this phenomenon daily, maybe 10 times. And this is good news. Because if you get in trouble with the system, you try to do something different. So, of course you get in trouble, because the system is very resistant, and the system is defending themselves with Excel sheets, with regulations, with budgets, whatever. So don't be surprised that you get in trouble. But then the question is, how can you handle the trouble? And I think the only way to handle the trouble is not to argue on the axis of morality. Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. No.
The church is doing this for thousands of years. Doesn't work. I tell you. So don't make the same mistake.
That's what we've learned as well.
So what we have to figure out, what are the new financial incentives? Because this system, which we want to change, is always focusing on money. So we have to find that, we have to activate that trigger, that money trigger, and show them, hey, if you do it like this and this, you have a huge financial incentive. And I give another story for that. So we had a big building, and we needed steel construction. You have to tender. It was a steel construction 7,000 square meters, so a medium construction. And so we were tendering for a steel roof. Okay. And who is answering on the tender for a steel roof? Not the baker, not the dentist. It's a company who is specialized in realizing steel roofs. So they have the skills to do it. But what is their mindset? Their mindset is to sell as much as possible steel. So this is the wrong partner. So then I can fight against him and said, you can do less and less. You never do this. So I said, you know what I do? I search for a steel company with a business model to make every steel construction with less as possible steel. Then they have the skills and they have the right mindset. And I don't have to fight. And you all know them. It's a roller coaster. He made a very, very safe steel construction, but he knows he has to assemble it on Friday evening. You have to disassemble it on Thursday morning. So he tries whatever he's designing to do it with the less as possible steel, because this is good for his business model. So I asked the guy, I said, Mr. Roller Coaster, can you design my steel roof? He said, Mr. RAU, I'm not a steel roof company. I'm a roller coaster. I said, okay. And then I said to him, okay, but can you imagine that you create a horizontal roller coaster? I said, I can do that. I said, okay, so then you make the horizontal roller coaster and I just call it my roof. So we've done that. He used more than 34% less steel. And I tell you, a very, very safe, maybe even more safe steel construction than with a regular steel company. So I tell you this story because if you are getting in trouble, that means you are fighting with someone because he has a different mindset. So then realize, what kind of mindset do I need? And then you search for someone who has that mindset. Don't try to change someone. For me personally, I think I have no right to do that. But if I don't appreciate his mindset, I just look for someone else. And it has always a huge financial incentive, always. By the way, this is another point. We have 3 capital flows. We have money, of course. We have communication, and we have love. And let's say if you want to have love and you pay, it's prostitution. If you want to have money and you suggest love, you're not honest. And in a relation, you're in love with someone, a little bit trouble, shopping, washes. Let's talk together tonight. And then you're talking 3 months, and then you realize, you know what, maybe it's better we're going to separate, cost you money. So that means we are compensating the different capital flows. And if you don't activate love, and if you don't activate communication, it's getting very expensive. Have a look outside. Everything is getting more and more expensive because we don't communicate. And love, nobody knows what is it anymore. I mean, maybe it's strange to talk about love in the building sector, but you also could say it's about the respect for that you're different, that you have a different mindset, and there's nothing wrong with it. So let's activate all 3 capital flows.
That's a beautiful way of looking at construction. So if you put more love into a building, it will have a financial return because you spend more time on something that you love. And for the building case, it means you can get something better designed, and then if it's better designed, you get a higher return.
Yeah, but be careful. I mean, it's not that you're sitting in front of a building, you meditate. Okay, I love you so much. Now it's getting cheaper. It's about the immaterial and the spiritual qualities you have to respect in everything what you're doing, everything what is there. And if you have that respect, then you will see that at the very end you need less money. Mm-hmm. That's my experience.
The roof from the roller coaster builder, was it then also easily dismantled again? Because that's what these...
Perfectly, because he's dismantling his roller coaster every weekend. So for him it was no issue at all. This is another point. For the steel roof company, it was a problem. Oh, we have to disassemble it. Oh, we did never do that before. That costs you extra money. It's getting more expensive. And then I go to the roller coaster. That was his daily business. So never search for someone for whom the solution is still a problem. Search for someone for whom the solution is daily business. And that means you have to find partners sometimes out of the building sector. We make now a concept with a big offshore company, because they have all the solution in the offshore world, which we need now. So, and if you want to search for the real innovations, that never happens in your own sector, never. They're always in the other sector. So we work together with the car industry, with the cruise ship companies, with the offshore buildings, with the airplane companies. That's why we get our inspiration for architecture, not in architecture.
Yeah, great idea. That's something maybe we can also start to implement.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple minutes ago, which stuck to me. You were the advisor to the King of Bhutan.
Mm-hmm.
How does something like that happen? And what did you learn from the country and from the king? That's maybe 2 questions at once.
Now he wants to. You have to realize that Bhutan is not a very rich country, and the kids, if they want to study, most of the kids, they have to go out of Bhutan because there's no possibility in between Bhutan. I mean, there are 700,000 people, so it's not so much. So then they go to Harvard or Cambridge, or they go to the States, whatever. So they're studying there. And mostly the government is paying it because the parents are not able to pay it. So on one day the king said, you know what, maybe it's better to invest this money in a very good school in Bhutan. So then they don't have to go outside of Bhutan. We can keep them here and we can spend the money in the country. So he decided to start to build the Royal Bhutanese Academy. And that was quite funny because the king is sitting in the plane. He's always on seat 1A. So he was sitting on seat 1A. And he was just looking out of the window. He said, okay, I think this is a good place to do that. Nobody knows where that was. I mean, you have to imagine there are so many. I mean, Bhutan is wood. So they sent out a group of people to find that place because it was his imagination there. At least they found that place, but it was 10 kilometers far away from everything. From a street, from a village, from people. So the first thing they had to do, they have to build a street to get there. But he wants to realize a very sustainable academy. So he was searching for someone out of the Western world to give him an advice on sustainability. And the king, he has a quite close relation to the the Dutch you say king house. I don't know if
the royals, Dutch royals.
To the royals. Sorry, to the royals. So I don't know, but there was someone was asking me. So do you know that? And he's searching for and. I don't remember exactly. He said, okay, I will try. So I sent a letter. So I was invited. And but that was not so easy because if you're invited there, anyway, you have to pay everyday money. It's $230 in that time to enter. And I thought, okay, I go there and I go to an office and I have a conversation and they're testing me. So no, we went to different monasteries. So we were hiking, we were to many monasteries, and we were meditating. So it was a kind of a spiritual test for me, who I am, and that happened 3 times. And then that was a guy from the king, so he was with me. He decided, okay, now you're ready to go to the king. Now we think you're okay, so you can get there. So I went to the king. Very nice guy. So we had a very, very, very good conversation. And then in the evening, I was in my hotel. Let's say I had a room with a bed. So he was on the phone, and he said, "Mr. Rao, do you have time tonight?" I said, I said, His Majesty, I'm here for you. Of course I have time. I have nothing to do. I said, okay, let's go for dinner tonight. I said, okay, I will pick you up. So someone picked me up with a truck, and we went up in the Himalaya, and there was a kind of a restaurant. And he rented the whole restaurant just to sit with me. So we were 2 people in a completely empty restaurant. We had a dinner, and we had very nice conversations. And you asked me also what did I learn? I learned a lot. I learned the most in different cultures. But maybe what I realized myself, I said, okay, shall I take my phone with me? I mean, Bhutan, it's up there in the mountains. They have nothing. They have no technique. So maybe that makes no sense. But I took it with me. And I tell you, and that's now 10 years ago, the connection was much better than in the Netherlands. Much better.
Up in the Himalayas.
Of course, much better than in Germany. This is even worse. And you know why? They had nothing. And if you have nothing and you start something, you buy the very best one. Yeah. So that means if you think that you are not on track with something, this is a big advantage, because then you can make the big step to take the very best one. And then you want to do also the investment. Otherwise, you don't want to do the investment. There had no depreciation of the old system. There was no old system.
Okay, yeah. Great story. And did he build the school? Did you advise him on building the school?
Yeah. We had an Indian architect from Delhi, because they work very close together with India, and mostly the Indian people there, the Pakistani people there, they are the builders in Bhutan. So at least we built the school. Yes, it's ready.
Nice. They seem to be pushing. There seem to be some changes over there. Eh? Like a couple of weeks ago, Big announced that airport that they're building there. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, I heard about the airport. Yeah, I mean, and then you have to realize. I mean, if you go by plane to Bhutan, this is really an excitement, because you're flying in between the mountains and there's no radar. So the pilots, they just look where they can fly. So if the weather is not good, they can fly. So then there's no plane today. Yeah, the weather is not okay. I love that. I mean, we always think that we should do, or that we can do in every moment, everything, everywhere. This is a big misunderstanding. We have to make our choices. If you want to do everything everywhere, you don't want to make choices.
Yeah, that's something I noticed in my environment as well. I think it's something very specific to our generation, and maybe the younger generations as well. They have the feeling that choosing is losing.
Yeah,
and by reading and by living, I also started to learn that if you don't choose, you lose the most from a certain perspective, because then you can't go deep into anything. So yeah,
I mean, if I wouldn't choose to sit here with you at 11 o'clock in this morning, I wouldn't be here. Oh, maybe I'll come along, maybe not. Oh, yeah, if you come, I don't know. And that's another dimension. The only reason why something happens is that someone really wants to do it. You want to be here this morning in Amsterdam. That's the only reason why you're here. The only reason. There are thousands of reasons for you and for me not to be here, right? And there's one reason that we're here, because you and me, we want to be here. So that's why nothing happens, because nobody wants it. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing that we're moving towards the final part of the recording. As I mentioned in the beginning, we kind of have the habit with the podcast to just have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I would, of course, be maybe missing out if I maybe don't ask a little bit more about certain specific construction-related questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take a quick look. If we're missing some of the bigger points, maybe to double-click just a little bit on the idea of material passports.
Yeah,
I noticed that it comes from the idea that we explained that everything is temporary. A building should be a material depot. But it's still a very small. It's still being incorporated on a very small amount of projects, in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see ways how this can be increased? I know Madaster is an effort that you've started.
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe explain a little bit more about that and how that's going?
Maybe it's good just to explain the listeners what Madaster is.
Yes.
So, waste is material without identity.
Yes.
So, if material keeps its identity, it never be waste. And what is the best way to documentate an identity is a passport. So that's why we started with a material passport for a building. So on the material passport in a building, all the materials which were used in this temporary aggregate building is documented. So we know exactly where it is. And then we scaled it up. We said, okay, let's start the cadastre for material, because the cadastre, you know everything about the site, the dimensions, the money, all the data about the site. With Madaster, you get all the data over the material on the site. I started this initiative 12 years ago, so we also started with Excel sheets. Everything was written down. So we had the first material passport in 2012. And then I said, okay, I have to scale it up. And then I said, okay, but if I want to scale this up, I have to show the financial incentives. So I was searching for people from the financial sector to help me. So the CFO and the COO and the CHO, they're all from the financial sector in Madaster. That was a very, I took that decision because I thought otherwise it will never fly. So we started the initiative in 2017. Now Madaster is running in seven countries. So we now go to Japan, we go to Taiwan this year, maybe to Australia. We have the first cities in Germany, they are fully registered in Madaster. All the public buildings said, okay, we want to know what kind of materials in our city. And especially now, we are, on a daily basis, we hear something about the war, but then you want to know what you have. Because maybe you don't get anything anymore tomorrow. So you see that the awareness that we have to documentate all the materials is increasing quite quickly, and it's very clear. I mean, in art also everything is limited. We know where all the Rembrandts are. We know where all the Van Goghs are. And there's no Rembrandt scarcity, right? There's no Van Gogh scarcity. It's a limited edition. There is no resource scarcity. This is a huge misunderstanding. All materials which are not growing are limited. In a limited edition, there's no scarcity. And if there's no scarcity, then you have to document it because it's a limited edition. And therefore you have the Madaster. So it's running in several countries. It's getting bigger and bigger. And of course, the huge agenda is to roll it out all over the whole world, because humanity has to know where is all the stuff, where are all those limited editions, where are the Rembrandts of planet Earth, because we have to document it, because whatever we do, it's temporary. Tomorrow there are other people here and they have to use the same stuff. So for me, it's unbelievable logic to do that.
How are you scaling this? Is it a for-profit company? And if so, is there a business model to scale this, or is this an NGO? How do you expand? How do you get the resources to expand this? Because it's a very powerful idea.
Yeah, no, it's two. It's a foundation. So Madaster is a foundation, and the foundation is responsible for the agenda. I was telling, and the foundation ask people to set up a company under the umbrella of the foundation. So the foundation is controlling the company, and the task for the company is to set up the platform, to digitalize everything, to make it possible that you make a passport, etc. How is it financed? That was your question. In the very beginning, we are searching before we enter in a country. We are searching for 33 parties. We call them 33 Kennedys, to spend money so that we can translate the platform to the country. So we deliver the platform, but then we have to nationalize the platform for Belgium or for Japan, for example, or for France, a different language, different regulations. So we customize with this money, we customize the platform for that country. The advantage for those partners is they are the preferred suppliers in the very beginning, so they have free access to the platform for 2 years. They can do marketing with it. They are the front runner in the country about circular economy, about Madaster. And after 2 years, then it's public. And then if you use it, you have to pay a small fee. I think for building for 5,000 square meters, it's €100 or something. So the fee is very low. We keep it very low because we want to make it big.
And it's a recurring fee? It's annual?
It's annual, yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah. I understand. And what's the idea of the how do you call it? The organization type? It's a Madaster is a
foundation?
It's a foundation. So what does that mean? Like there's shareholders? There are no shareholders?
There are no shareholders. So and the foundation is not earning money.
Okay.
The foundation has to take care that the company is following the right agenda. And the foundation has also the right to stop with the company if we think you are handling this in the wrong way. So we take it back because the foundation is the owner of the platform.
Wow.
It's not the company. That's, by the way, a reason that in the beginning it's very difficult to get money. Because in the West said, okay, but I'm not the owner of anything. Said, yeah, that's the idea. Then I don't give. Okay, so but then you find different people. If you do this, yeah, of course I understand it. Yes, of course, this is a completely different money you're searching for. So we finance it also with different kind of money.
Okay. Are there historic or current examples of foundations that have really scaled to be really big global players, or is this really a new type of model that you're exploring to scale globally?
I never thought about that. I never did research about that.
It felt right for you to do it this way.
That was for me the right way how to organize it. Yeah, and until now it works.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting. In Belgium, I'm aware of it. Johan Klaps, he was also on the podcast.
Yeah.
So he came to explain it a couple of years ago. I hear it's being used more and more. So amazing. Yeah. Okay. We are approaching the end of the hour. I really want to respect your time, Thomas. We have the habit of ending with a couple of more informal questions. Like, for example, if there could be anyone that you would like to have a drink with, dead or alive, who would it be?
My wife.
Oh wow, that's very beautiful. Okay, why?
Because I'm in love with her. So it's always nice that's the best you can have.
That's true.
To have a drink with someone you're in love with. So that's all I need.
That's a very beautiful answer. Anyone who has influenced your thinking the most? Anyone that you can come up with that you say, yeah, that's really someone who inspired the way that I'm thinking, the things that I'm doing today?
Yes, that's Erik de Ruiter. It's a very close mental friend of mine. Nobody knows him, but he's genius.
Who's Erik?
Erik, he's nearly my age. He's living in Eindhoven. He's working with different kind of startups, and he has a completely different way of thinking. This is the first guy in my life I met who was thinking in the same way that I'm thinking, because I always feel that I say something, people said, huh? What? How, why? But he said, yes, and this and that. So I met him 10 years ago. So we worked together. And he's writing now a fantastic book. It's called The Logic of Vacation.
The Logic of Vacation?
Ja, in het Nederlands vakantielogica.
Okay.
Fantastic. So he's the most genius thinker I know.
Okay. Okay. Maybe a new guest but he's not active in construction.
No. But maybe you invite him, and then he will tell you everything about this fantastic book.
Okay, wonderful.
It's about the laws of disruption.
Okay. Yeah.
He discovered that. He worked on that for 30, 40 years, and finally he figured it out. And it's a fantastic story, yes.
And the book is out?
Yeah, the book will be out in summer, yeah.
Okay.
In some weeks, months. I think maybe weeks now.
Okay.
It was years, then it was months, now it's weeks.
As things go. All right, then I see we are approaching the end. I would like to thank you very much, Thomas, for this very wonderful, interesting conversation. I think our audience will appreciate it as well. Are there any final words, any final things you want to say to the listeners?
Yes, I would. Yeah, because sometimes people say, so how can I do this, and how can I feel it? So I have a tip. It's very simple. Go every 6 months to a funeral, and then you will be confronted with the main essence of life. That's it.
Strong tip. I think the Stoics, how do they call it again? Memento mori. Like they all kept a skull on their desk to be reminded of the temporary.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming here, and thank you for listening.
It was a wonderful conversation. I hope the listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. And I would like to congratulate you with all the amazing work that you've already done and that you're probably still going to do in the next years and decades. So thank you very much, Thomas.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
For having me.
Thanks for listening to the Bao Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you're interested in Bao Living in our Smart Adaptable Module or SAM, go check out our website baoliving.com. If you want to stay up to date, you can best subscribe to our monthly newsletter on our website or follow us on all social media platforms where we're named @Bao Living.